Hello, hi, I'm Howie, and this is episode 7 of my podcast, Pearl Escapes Fear of Success. You might be listening to it on a podcast service, or you could be watching it on YouTube. Either way, welcome. So today I'm going to be talking about getting fit, which is one of our biggest fears of success. How do I know this? Because all I have to do is look at our problems in the UK, our problems in the US. And when we look at those problems, what we see is a huge amount of obesity. We see a huge amount of people not taking enough exercise. And we also see things like eating disorders and all kinds of problems that come down to just not feeling that we can prioritize and take care of ourselves healthily. And if we think about it, it's kind of crazy. It's really kind of crazy because we're going through a health crisis at the moment where we're looking for special medicines, we're looking for vaccines, we're looking for all kinds of things. And our big killers are killers like heart disease and cancer, and stroke, high blood pressure, things like that, are all treatable with exercise. Now, before you think that I'm going to just start to giving you the usual fitness instructor spiel, I'm not going to, don't worry. I have been a fitness instructor for 10 years, and so I know a lot about health and fitness, exercise, nutrition, all those kind of things. But in my other work, looking into fear of success, I know that it's not just as simple as saying, hey, why don't you go to the gym? Hey, why don't you eat healthily? Because if it was that simple, we'd all be doing it, right? If it was that simple, if we didn't have any other issues and any other problems, we'd all be doing it. So we have to look a little bit deeper. I just thought, before I forget, let me just tell you, at the end of this podcast, I'm going to be telling you about a very special thing that I've done with the book that accompanies this podcast, which is Pearl Escapes Fear of Success. And it's now a video course available on Udemy, which is basically, it's just a video book. It's just me reading the book. But for a lot of people, that might be more appealing than reading an ebook. So if you want to stay till the end, I will tell you how you can get hold of copies of that. Or you can just check out my blog on my website, pearlescapes.co.uk, for discount codes and things like that. Because you're my favorite. You're my favorite. Okay. Anyway, getting back to getting fit. Now, one of the things about coronavirus is, for many of us, it's brought up a lot of challenges, a lot of issues. But in a way, those issues were there before and have been there for a long time. And one of the things I noticed in my life was that I had a family member who went through a real health crisis during this time. And I wasn't really aware, as she was going through this, how much it was affecting my attitude to my health and my fitness, my exercise regime. And the day she got the all clear, well, the next day there I was with my gym kit on, and I was working out and I was really getting fit again. And I realized that I had been holding myself back. I hadn't been able to focus on my own workout, on my own health and fitness in a way that was really healthy, because it didn't feel right. It felt really selfish. It felt really selfish for me to focus on losing a few pounds, getting a little bit healthier, a little bit fitter, when I'm essentially a well person. And she was going through a really hard time. And if you look at it that way, there's a kind of sense to it, isn't there? Like right now, people are going through so many difficult things that it's hard sometimes for us to take time to go and have a workout without feeling really selfish, without it feeling kind of decadent. because so many people are going through such difficulties. Why should I be healthy? Why should I be fit when people around me are suffering? And for a lot of people, if you're a carer, if you're a mum, if you're looking after other people in your life, or you have people in your life who suffer from real health conditions, maybe you've got someone in your family going through chemo, the idea of going to the gym can seem kind of disgusting. Kind of, why should I get to do this? And what if I make this person feel bad because I look healthy, because I look good? I'm reminded of an episode of Friends when Rachel is going to go and give the wedding ring, the engagement ring, back to her ex-fiancé. And as she's going, one of the friends says to her, well, try not to look too great. Try not to look too great when you go and give him back his wedding ring, his engagement ring. And so she kind of like messes herself up a bit because she doesn't want to make the other person feel worse. And that's one of those things that we can sometimes do. We sometimes hold ourselves back because we don't want somebody to feel bad, because we kind of stride in all like, oh, look at me, I look great. Is that healthy? Is it realistic? And I think the answer we can say is that no, it's not realistic, because we do all have to take care of our own health and fitness. And if we don't take time out to exercise, we can't hold our own aging process back. We can't hold our own health conditions back. And very often it's the people who are rushing around trying to help everybody else that end up getting sick and having more serious problems. So it's really important that we find a sweet spot, that we find a balance between a healthy self-interest in our own fitness, in what we're doing, in the way that we are exercising, and we get comfortable with our own goals. So let's talk about goals for a second. Now, I have friends in the fitness industry. I have many, many friends. If any of you listened to the last 2 episodes, you'll know the episode it was an interview with Sam James, who's an incredible fitness instructor who suffers from cerebral palsy. And so she's managed to become a really top fitness instructor despite having a lot of physical problems. And she's just an inspiration. She's amazing. And in a way, like she said, it's easy for her to focus on her fitness, because if she doesn't, her condition gets worse rapidly. So she knows that she has to keep going, and she has to keep that fitness going for herself and for everybody else around her as well. Now, one of the problems that we have in particularly Western society, but generally in global society, is that we are bombarded with images of what a fit person looks like, what a physically perfect person looks like. And it changes in different cultures. But generally we are told by adverts and fitness things and everything like that, what we're supposed to look like. And there are standards, aren't there? The standards we look. And it's quite interesting at this point to go and look at a couple of adverts. Look at a couple of movie posters, or even catalogue models, and look at the size and the shape of the people that we're being shown. And then we can go and look outside in the real world, if we're not completely locked down, and actually look at, what do people in my family look like? What do people who are my friends look like? Do they look like fitness models? Do they look like catwalk models? Probably not. And I find it really interesting. I went to London Fashion Week in February in England, obviously because it's London Fashion Week, duh. And I went to this amazing show with a guy from New York and a girl from England. And so we saw this amazing show. It was amazing. We came out, we were really buzzing. And then we went to another show. We walked in. It was great. It was great. And then I went down the corridor and I went to the bathroom. And I looked in the mirror and I was shocked at how fat I was. I was really like, wow, I've got so fat. I didn't realise I got so fat. And I turned around and I came out to my friends and they were sitting there in the hotel, and I said, oh, and I looked at them and I thought, gosh, they're so fat as well. And then I said to them, I didn't just get really fat, I've just been looking at fashion models all afternoon, haven't I? And they went, yeah. And that's what happens if you go to Fashion Week and you sit there and you turn around, look in the mirror and you think, I'm abnormal, I'm weird. And you think, no, I've just been looking at people who are a size 0 or a size 2. And it's amazing how quickly looking at a group of people who look a certain way can kind of blow your own self-image, your own idea about who you are. Now, I'm not going to say that I've never had the situation where I've suddenly realised that I've put on a little bit too much poundage. And, to a certain extent, I feel a little bit like that at the moment. And, that's one of the things that happens in life, that sometimes we have weeks or months where things are really difficult, where the idea of going to the gym is just kind of crazy. If we're going through a trauma, and we're kind of going through that now, but it's a really long trauma. So the problem is with a really long trauma, a global trauma like this, we can't just stop thinking about our health and fitness for months and months and months. Otherwise, we're going to end up being the people in hospital. It's challenging, isn't it? It's challenging. But I will tell you this as well. There's a great role model in fitness who I think is brilliant. And I follow him on social media and he's great. And then he said this thing, and he said, because he hadn't been travelling for like 5 months and, wasn't doing the usual things, he'd been able to focus completely on his fitness. And he'd be able to really work out in the gym, to the max every day. And he was in the best physical shape of his life. And this was his abs, and this is what he looked. And I looked at that and I just thought, I cannot respect that. I just feel like this person is so completely out of touch with the challenges and difficulties we're facing as ordinary people, as normal people. And I just felt, for me, that obviously that person was pursuing their own fitness goals. And that's their choice. But I felt judgmental. I felt, how could you? How could you be so self-obsessed at a time like this? And so I have to look at my judgment of that person. I have to look at it and say, wow, what's going on with me? And I guess the thing is I'm constantly trying to find my balance of spending enough time on my health and fitness, whether it's exercise or eating well, but also supporting other people around me and keeping that in balance. Now, we've had 6 days here, actually 7 days really, of very, very hot weather in England, and this has been the longest heat wave since the 1960s, so the longest heat wave in my lifetime. And I had to cancel one of my fitness classes, so I didn't even teach this week. So this is a really long time that I've gone without being able to go out for a walk, without being able to exercise, without being able to do, and I'm still not able to do things like swimming and stuff like that. So yeah, but I am grateful to get to this point and say, I survived this week. I survived this week, and I'm not worried that I haven't done a workout in like 10 days. Well, it will be 2 weeks by the time I do my next workout probably, because I'm just so glad to have got through the heat wave. And in that moment of the heat wave, this last week, it's been very, very basic. It's been about staying hydrated, getting enough salt on board. It's been about getting a t-shirt wet and sticking it on top of my head, wrapping it around my neck, wetting my face down. It's been all those things of trying to just keep cool, just getting in the shower over and over again. And in that respect, I have looked around and I've been out for a little walk or in the car, to go and do some deliveries and stuff. And I see people running. And I go, are they crazy? Are they crazy? But for them, that might be okay because it's something that their body can cope with. It's something that they can handle. Because my body does not like the heat. And I'm not as bad as some people, but I've really, really felt it this week. And it's kind of a crazy thing because I've travelled around the world. I've gone to some very hot places. I honestly don't know how I've done it sometimes. I look back and I think, how did I do that? And I remember a night in Mexico in August when I had one of those swinging beds and no air conditioning. And I remember just kind of going outside and lying in a hammock and then going back in and lying on the bed. And at one point just pouring water over my body in the bed, just trying to keep cool at night and getting proper heat exposure and heat exhaustion. And so what I'm trying to say here is that every body is different. Every person's body is different. We adapt to exercise differently. We enjoy different exercises. We have different health challenges. For some of us, if we don't exercise, we're going to get arthritis. That's me. For some of us, if we don't exercise, we're going to get heart disease. That's me. If we don't exercise, we're going to get high blood pressure. That's me. If some of us, we don't exercise, we're going to get cancer. That's me. Because I know all those things are hereditary in my family. So I have a vested interest in staying fit and healthy long term. For other people, there may be very many reasons why they work out the way they do, why they need to be healthy in the way that they are. And for a lot of us, we don't really know. We don't really know until we try something. We don't really know until we're put into a challenging situation. And I always remember when I went up to Bhutan and I went to the mountains, and all that anybody talked about was altitude sickness. And we were all watching each other all the time, to see if we were going to get altitude sickness, because we were at some very, high altitudes. And altitude sickness is one of those funny things because it actually affects young, fit men most of all. And they don't really know why. So older people often have an easier time. And weirdly enough, smokers do better at altitude, are less likely to suffer from altitude sickness, which is so random. But in a way, we don't really know until we get up high. And so when I got up high in the mountains, something happened to my body, and I discovered that my body loves altitude. It's great. It enjoys being up in the mountains. And my body loves being in the water, loves swimming, aqua, just having a good old splash around. But everybody's different. And one of the things that we can do when we kind of mess our heads up and create our own fears of success in our heads is we look at other people's goals, we look at other people's bodies, and we get confused about what we really want and what is success for us in terms of fitness. And it's always going to change because life is a movable feast. So there is no kind of, all right, I'm going to work out for this many hours a day and I'm going to do this and I'm going to eat this and I'm going to eat that, unless you're a robot, or unless you're training for the Olympics, perhaps. But even if you're training for the Olympics, life still happens. And one of the things you learn about training at a really high level and an intense level is the more you train and the higher up, sort of, closer to your absolute physical peak you get, the more risk of injury, the more risk of tearing a muscle, the more risk of tearing a ligament or something like that. And it's a really challenging place to be. So, again, we're looking at that sweet spot. What is the sweet spot where the risk of me having an injury is greater than the reward of this fitness exercise? And if you're rehabbing from an exercise, that's what we've got to think about. Now, when I was working with people with progressive diseases, what was really handy was that I could talk about my own experience, and I could talk about my own experience of rehabbing from injury, because about, I guess nearly 20 years ago, I gave my brother a kidney, and it was one of those big open surgeries, not one of those keyhole ones. So when I had that surgery, I went from being at my peak of fitness to being unable to sit up in bed without a nurse, unable to stand up without the aid of a nurse. And I had to rehab from that injury. Now, I remember I was, as I said, I was working out really hard before the surgery. And I remember when one of the nurses came round and I said something about touching my toes. And she said, "Can you touch your toes?" And I went, and I leaned down and I did. I could still touch my toes. And the nurse goes, "I can't touch my toes." So I thought, well, that's pretty good. I can still touch my toes, But it was a long, long road. It was a really long road. And the worst thing I did was I kept going 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. And it is so hard when you're trying to rehab from such a serious injury to just do the right amount, to just go 1 step forward. It's so hard. And I know that I constantly made my rehab, I made my recovery longer, because I was trying to go too fast. And that's what I really learned about fitness, that all of these sort of big posters that you have about people going, go hard or go home, and no excuses, and da-da-da-da-da-da, it's all rubbish. It is all rubbish, because you follow that and you injure yourself by tearing a ligament. That's not fitness. Then you've really got a difficult time, because you're going to try and keep the rest of your body healthy at the same time as not injuring your ligament or your torn muscle or something like that. So there's a lot of nonsense in the fitness industry. And unfortunately, sometimes it works more as an industry than as a service. Fitness should be a service, I think. Like healthcare, a service that we provide to people to support people in their goals. But anyway, coming back to looking at fitness and getting fit as kind of a problem, as why do we have such a problem with it? So let's ask some more questions. Now, do you remember I said earlier on, I said there was a point I went, a time I went through not so long ago when I was holding myself back. Now, this is a big deal. And very often we create our identity about how we look. Whether it's our hair colour, or whether we wear glasses, or our skin colour, or whether we've got a tan. These things are how we often identify ourselves. Or by a size. I'm a size 0. I'm a size 8. I'm a size 14. I'm a size 16. Now, luckily, we are moving away from that, and that's great that we're seeing more different sized role models. But we can still have a very strong relationship with the people around us based on who's the skinny one, who's the fit one, who's the healthy one. And when we change our fitness, we change our relationship with other people, we can get flack for it, we can get punished for it. And I think when we can really look deeply into that and we start to see that, hang on, I'm actually scared of this person's reaction, or I'm trying to get approval from this person, what we can realise is that what we're in, and I hate to tell you this, is a no-win situation. Now, I love all the Stephen Covey and everything that, we want to look at things as a win-win and all the rest of it. But sometimes we're in a relationship with somebody, and it could even be like a romantic partner that likes us to look a certain way. we can be in a situation of it's me or it's them. I can stay the way I am and keep them happy. I can change to try to make them happy. But really, if the people around us can't love us, whatever size we are, is that really love? If the people around us love us conditionally, then even though we change, they're still going to be loving us conditionally. And what I mean by that is, once upon a time, I used to get bullied for being a bit big, a bit fat. And then things changed and the roles reversed, and I was thinner than the person who used to pick on me. Sorry, but you did, if you're listening. Love ya. But what happened was when I got skinny, suddenly the jibes, the comments became about my skinny ass. Look at your skinny ass. Oh, no, no. And I had to stick up for myself, and I had to turn around and say, okay, that's enough. The next time that you make a comment, a derogatory comment about me being skinny, I am going to say something mean about you being bigger. And yes, it was not perhaps the most adult way of approaching that, but it worked. And it, if nothing else, it brought attention to that situation, that it's not okay to pick on somebody because of their size. It's not okay to make nasty comments, even if it's just a joke. Oh, I'm only joking. Why are you making it so serious? But unfortunately, for a lot of us, that thing of not getting fit and not getting healthy is not about a lack of willpower. It is not about a lack of determination or all those pictures and signs that you see in the gym. It may well be because we're afraid of the consequences to our relationships. And the only way to get over that is to deal with that relationship. Or to decide that we are not going to let that hold us back. To decide that whatever other people's reactions are going to be, they are their reactions. And what we're going to do is we're going to love ourselves unconditionally. We're going to love ourselves unconditionally by going to the gym or going for a walk or doing whatever makes us happy, whatever feels right and good to us, going for a swim, even going for a run, because it's what feels right to us. It feels true to us, regardless of what everyone else tells us about, oh, you'll never lose the weight, or you've always been big and jolly, you've always been this, you've always been that. Well, always is a very long time. And really it's about, again, finding that sweet spot of what's right for you. What's your authentic success in fitness? And it's so important because, it's our life. Do we want to spend an hour in the gym every so often, or, just have a little dance around, whatever? Or do we want to spend time in a hospital down the line? Because that's really what it comes down to. For me, it's kind of simple in a way, because I've got a family history of really bad arthritis. So as soon as I feel that coming on, I'm like, oh, well, I've got to start using my fingers and get everything going. I've got to start warding off that arthritis before it gets me. And I've got to stay healthy, fit and healthy for my lungs, not just because of coronavirus, but because of everything else out there as well. I'm no good to anybody else if I'm not healthy enough to look after them. And that's one of the important things as a carer. We've got to say that if we're carers and we're looking after other people, it doesn't help them in the end if we get so ragged that we can't be any use to them either. So there's a logic to it, as well as that unconditional love. Okay, so I want to now talk about a couple of other things to do with getting fit. And I guess I probably should give you a kind of trigger warning, because I'm going to talk about some serious issues here. And just to remind you that when I talk about all these different issues and fears of success, it's never all of the fears of success, because they're what we've learned to fear, So we've all got our own fears. We've all got things that we've created in our mind. We've all got stories that we've created. And so this isn't all of the fears you could possibly have about getting fit. Of course not. But I hope that what it does is it encourages you to look deeper. If you feel that something is holding you back from being fit and healthy, it may be that you are perfectly fit and healthy and you're exactly where you want to be, but you feel pressure to look different. You feel pressure from the fitness industry, from the fashion industry, from the makeup industry to look different. In which case, it's not your problem, it's their problem. And that's something else to heal. But one of the things I want to talk about, and this is kind of a tough one, is many people are going to be afraid of looking really healthy and fit because they're afraid of what might happen when they are more attractive. And, for some people that could actually mean gaining weight. That could actually mean putting on weight. I remember I went through a time when I was very big, and I always remember that I always got hit on a lot more when I was bigger. And then when I would lose weight, my girlfriends would say, oh, you're looking so hot and da-da-da. But I'd be like, yeah, but I don't get half the attention I used to get. So it kind of goes against this sort of societal ideas about women's weight. And, but for many people, what we can be fearful of is not just sexual attention. And we could be fearful of sexual attention. We could be fearful of what happens when I lose that weight and I can wear, a tight dress. I can wear a short skirt. What happens when that happens? That attention. Especially if we have had experience of sexual assault, harassment, or violence. And it can be tough. It can be tough because I know, I shouldn't laugh, but I think it's funny. I know that when I was cycling everywhere and I was wearing all this sort of lycra, and I was wearing these shorts that had like pads in them, so they gave me a bigger butt. And sometimes it was really hot, so I'd be wearing like a vest top and I'd be cycling along with my helmet on and I'd be so sweaty and feeling disgusting. And I would go past like a building site and I would get the whole wolf whistle and woo, woo, and all that. And I would literally turn around to look at them and think, seriously, you think this looks good? I'm like, I was like, you've got no fashion sense. And maybe if you're a psychotherapist, you want to delve into that some more, but that's just one of my days, not what I want to focus on. So one of the other things that we can be afraid of is romantic attention as well. So what happens when we look fantastic? What happens when we look like us? What happens when we look like the person that we always kind of imagined we would be? And people want to be with us. And they want to go out with us. And they want to move in with us. And then they want to marry us. It can get kind of scary, right? So that success can be quite terrifying. Now, I'm going to talk about that in more detail in another episode when we talk about our fears in romantic relationships. Because again, it's another huge area. But you can see again where so often if we're just looking at things in a sort of an old-fashioned way of looking in terms of, I'm scared of getting fat, or I'm scared of cancer, or I'm scared of something like that, we may be ignoring the problem of actual fear of success. I'm actually scared of this because what if I succeed? I'm actually scared of this because what if I get what I'm looking for? I get what I want. What if I'm so successful in terms of getting healthy and fit that I become a fitness instructor? What if suddenly everybody else wants me to tell them how to do it? What if I get so into nutrition that I become a nutritionist? What happens is change. What happens is that the ego is going to get busted. The ego is going to get busted because the more we follow our dreams and our hearts and what feels good to us, the more we're coming into our own authentic success. And so the ego is sitting there going something like, oh, you can't become a fitness instructor, you're an accountant. Because the ego has got attached to that identity. And the ego knows that you really have it in you to go and become a swimming instructor or a paddleboard instructor. Or if you really follow that joy and that light and that love that you have, that your world is going to change, your life is going to change. And it's a kind of a funny thing because, you know, in the fitness industry and all this kind of stuff and in all the images that we have in the world, we kind of have this idea, it's just sort of like, you know, the makeover thing, you know, that if we change the way that we look, you know, we're gonna change our world and we're gonna do a pretty woman and suddenly everyone's gonna respect us and we're gonna do this and that. And it's kind of true and it's kind of not true. But one of the things that happens with fitness and health is you change the way you feel. And you know it. When you eat great, you know, you eat the things that really make you feel good, you have more energy to do things. Or you might sleep better. Or, you know, you might just find that your skin's feeling better and you're glowing a little bit more. And these are all great changes that can happen in your life when you start to focus on your health and fitness. And it's not that difficult, is it? I eat something. I'm aware of how I feel. I decide, you know, I don't really like the way I feel when I ate half a tub of Ben & Jerry's. Or we might say, actually, I do quite like the way I feel when I ate half a tub of Ben & Jerry's. Because I haven't done it for so long. It's not part of my daily routine. So it's kind of nice to break out of that. You know, if I've got a really strong fitness and nutrition routine, sometimes it's nice to break out of that and say, hey, I don't have to stick to the timetable all the time. I can give myself a break. I can be human. I can live my life and I can just enjoy life and enjoy the days when I want to go for a walk and when I'm feeling really tired or exhausted by the heat. It's okay to enjoy watching some movies. It's okay to enjoy hanging out and chatting on the phone with my friends. And it really comes back to that unconditional love of setting boundaries. Yes, absolutely setting boundaries and saying, you know what, I feel comfortable at this way. I feel good at this way. I don't like feeling that much heavier than this because it feels like I'm carrying around bags of groceries. But we're all different. And I'll tell you, for a long, long time, I had debates with doctors who kept telling me I should be skinnier than I am because they were looking at a BMI chart. And then you realise that a BMI chart is just, you know, it's not a very good measure. And the other day I was looking at pictures, videos of myself when I was teaching so many classes, teaching like 15 classes a week. And I was cycling to the classes. And I looked at me teaching, you know, and I was so skinny. And I look at that and I think, that's really the limit, you know, for me. And I even then, at that time, I was still heavier than the doctor said that I should be. And looking at that picture, I think, no, that does not look great. And all my family thought I had an eating disorder. And what I remember about that time is just feeling like I could never get enough to eat. You know, I was always eating and eating high calorie foods because I was like an athlete training all the time. And I was over training and I was over teaching, you know, and I wasn't letting my body rest properly. And I look back and I think I was very, very, very lucky that I didn't cause myself a serious injury. I'm very, very lucky that I got away with it. And we can all do that. We can look back, and I also look at times when I was working in the city and I was going to the gym, but I was getting fatter and fatter and fatter. because I was just eating loads of biscuits. And I found Zumba just in time. And I look back and I think, okay, that was like a year, 18 months, when I was very, very unhealthy. And I think I got away with it. And so I hope that this video, this podcast is coming to you at a time that you can stop and you can say, you know what? I can change if I'm not happy, if I'm either overtraining or I'm not having enough exercise in my life, or I'm eating too much or too little or the wrong foods, and I can change and I can get back on track. And if you're lucky, in a couple of months you can look back and say, phew, that was a near miss, but I got away with it. Because our bodies are very, very forgiving most of the time. And most of the time, if we can focus on our health and fitness, we can do it in time to save ourselves really serious repercussions. And I was sitting in the park yesterday, and a lovely old man came past, 94 years old, having his daily walk with his stick. And he started telling me, and he said, this is what I do. And he said, when I was 60, I had a heart attack. And his daughter-in-law had to do CPR, so he wouldn't have survived if his daughter-in-law hadn't done CPR. And he said, the doctor said to him, well, you've got to start exercising. And he said, well, what do I do? What's the best exercise? He said, well, and the doctor said, well, you can either walk or you can swim. He said, well, I'm not swimming. So he said, right, that's it, half an hour every day. Half an hour I've done every day for the last 34 years. 34 years. And during lockdown, he said he just walked around the house for half an hour, looked at his watch, stood up, walked around for half an hour. And so now he's out and he's walking around. He says, still here, 34 years after the heart attack. He said, I've had a few more. I've had a few more in between, but I'm still here. So our bodies are very forgiving. And we can recover, we can heal, and we can come back to that authentic success of just being happy in our bodies and thinking, like, babies don't care what anyone thinks about them. They just enjoy life. They just move around, they swim, they have a good old time. And we can go back to that. We can go back to just being kids, just messing about and having fun and doing exercise because it's fun and because we enjoy it. Or we can just look at our clock and just go half an hour walking around the house like that guy. But the important thing is to find the sweet spot and what's right for you today, because you might be going through trauma. You might be going through grief. You might be going through a time when your body's in shock. And then you have to be just so careful and caring and loving to your body. And don't listen to all that no excuses crap. I saw something the other day, and it was somebody in the gym, and they were going, it was something like, the mind has to decide, has to push the body to do something, to get fit. And I was like, no, it doesn't. Because when I come out and I leave the house and I come out, my body knows exactly what it wants. It's like a dog. My body goes, go for a walk now. Or my body sees a swimming pool, my body goes, get in a swimming pool. So our bodies do know what they like. They know what they want to eat. They know how it makes them feel. We don't have to get too cerebral about it all. We can just enjoy it and have a good time. If we can get past those other blocks that we have, the worrying about what everybody else thinks, the worrying about what consequences we'll have when we look amazing, or if we put on a little bit of weight and we're not the size 0 anymore because we realize it's not right for us and it's not healthy. And it's, again, just coming back to our own personal, authentic success all the time. It's always about that. Not looking out there and looking at BMI charts or anything like that. It's about understanding what's my one step at a time. Because if I take 2 steps at a time, you go 3 steps back. Take it from somebody who's rehabbed from one of the hardest surgeries that there can be. And I could talk longer about that, but I feel like I'm running out of time with you guys. So thanks again for listening. It's been so nice, to hang out in the woods. This is the first time I've been here in weeks because it's been too hot and too busy to get down here. And it's just so lovely to be breathing in that clean air and enjoying, just a gentle walk and enjoying the sea air as well. It's beautiful. And that's what my body enjoys for today. And I'm going to go home and sleep really well, I think. And just before I end, as I said, I have 2 courses now on Udemy. Pearl Escape's Fear of Success Handbook, which is the video book. And also I have an online mini retreat. And I was so excited about that. That's my first sort of attempt at doing an online Pearl Escape, which is always about going out and feeling alive. And it's really just a tiny mini retreat of being in some nice little places in the world, as far as I could get, during what is essentially still kind of lockdown. I know that people can travel, but it's not kind of possible for me at the moment. So I've gone to some little spaces I can walk to, and I hope to maybe bring you some more really nice locations and some really nice little escapes. And as I say, if you want a discount code or a free code, drop me an email, pearl@pearlescapes.co.uk, or go to my website, www.pearlescapes.co.uk, and click on the blog. And there you'll usually find the latest codes. Udemy, their codes seem to run out really quick. So if the codes run out, I'm really sorry, and just keep checking back, or drop me a line, and hopefully we'll get your code and get you to have a go on the courses, because I really like to know what you guys think again. So thanks for listening, and just remember, keep coming back to the unconditional love and knowing and learning what's right for you, and enjoying your body. It's the greatest, as I say, it's the greatest toy you'll ever have, your body. So just enjoy it and enjoy having fun with it, and just have a great time. Okay. Hope it helps. Lots of love. See you next time.